Usually, I never promote any services for Amazon sellers. And actually, this video isn't an ad either. But not so long ago, a tool came out on the market that radically changes the product development process for selling on Amazon. More precisely, it doesn't just change it, it speeds it up by several times, and in some cases, makes the results significantly better. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. But first, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Here, we talk about how to start a business on Amazon. I only share the most useful, truly effective information that actually works, no scams or other nonsense. As always, you'll find all the links in the description below this video. Today, we're going to discuss a tool that can give you a serious competitive advantage. It's called DataDive. This is a relatively new service that has recently reached an industrial level, and it's really good. This tool has two main advantages. First, DataDive radically and significantly saves time when developing products. Second, it performs many processes much better thanks to its finely tuned integrated artificial intelligence. As a result, you're not just launching faster, you're earning more, because you're bringing a unique, truly in-demand product to market with a clear understanding of who your customer is, what matters to them, and how to sell your product to them. Now, let me explain what I mean and show you how this works in practice. To start, let's just outline which processes are the most labor-intensive when launching a business on Amazon, especially during the product development stage. Process number one is evaluating product niches. We need to figure out if there's actually money to be made in this niche, how high the competition is, whether there's a monopoly, if major Western brands are present, and so on. Process number two is evaluating competitors' products. We need to determine how good these products really are, where their weak points are, and, on the other hand, where everything is done perfectly. To do this, of course, we have to dig into the reviews. Reading reviews isn't the only thing you need to do for evaluation, but you absolutely can't do without it. Now imagine, every listing has thousands of reviews. We need to read them for all the products that appear on the first page of the search results, so this analysis can honestly take someone weeks. Process number three, which also takes up a lot of time, is coming up with ideas to improve our product. It's critically important to enter the market with a product that stands out in a positive way. Only with this kind of product can you really expect to make money on Amazon. By the way, this is one of the most common mistakes beginners make, launching a Me Too product. Like, I'll put out a product exactly like everyone else's, get 10% of the market leader's sales, and that'll be fine. No, it won't. With 100% certainty, that approach ends up losing you money. That's why you need to improve your product both functionally and in terms of design. And in order to come up with these improvement ideas, as we've already discussed, you need to read tons of reviews, study the market, and then also test these ideas. And you shouldn't test them on yourself, your wife, or your friends, but on real representatives of your target audience. And all of this is a process that can take a lot of time and resources. Step number 4 is creating the technical specifications for product development. Once we've figured out what needs to be improved and how our product will stand out from the competition, the next step is to write up the specs for production. This is where things get really interesting, because it's one thing to come up with ways to make the product better, and a whole different story to discuss it with the factory and find out that, for example, half of your ideas are simply impossible to implement. Or it could end up costing so much that our product just won't fit into any kind of viable business model. To make sure discussions with production are productive, you need a specific document, a technical specification. It should be written in a way that clearly communicates what we want, while also taking into account cost limitations, materials, technologies, and, of course, common sense. So yes, putting together a well-crafted technical specification isn't just about writing a wish list, it's a serious, time-consuming process that you can easily get stuck on for several days, if not weeks. Step number 5 is creating a list of keywords, or to put it simply, selecting the very search queries that buyers will use to find us. And the more accurate and comprehensive your list is, the more SEO-friendly your texts will be. It gets even more complicated because after using any service that generates these kinds of lists, you have to clean them up manually, which can be very time-consuming and exhausting. Step number 6 is writing the listing text. After we've compiled the list of keywords, we need to carefully and skillfully incorporate these words into the text, the title, the bullet points, the description, and the backend. And we have to do this in such a way that, on the one hand, the text remains readable for people, and on the other hand, it meets all of Amazon's requirements and helps with promotion. The thing is, Amazon is constantly tightening its rules. For example, a new requirement was introduced just recently. Now, in the title, you can't use the same word more than twice. So now, it's no longer enough to just stuff in keywords. You need to strike a balance between SEO and common sense. All of this has to work both for the algorithms and for the real people who read this text. So yes, writing the text is another labor-intensive stage that, without automation or ready-made templates, can eat up a ton of resources. Step number 7 is creating the technical brief for the illustrations for the listing. And yes, I deliberately say illustrations and not photos or 3D, because right now we're not just talking about showing the product from different angles, but about creating a selling tool. The illustrations in the listing aren't just colorful spots, they're one of the most important parts of the sales funnel. Why don't photos work? Because just a picture of the product isn't enough to convince the buyer. You need to understand what intentions and pain points the customer has when they come, what they want to get from the product, what fears and doubts they have, and what benefits they're looking for. All these aspects, pain points, desires, expectations, should be reflected in the illustrations. That's why I always recommend working not just with photographers or 3D artists, but specifically with marketers, people who know how to work with an audience and understand what it needs. And for them to be able to do this, you need to properly create a technical brief, outline the goals, define the key messages, show the target audience, in short, justify every slide. And this actually takes quite a bit of time. Because it's not just about make it look nice, it's a full-fledged strategy wrapped in visuals. Now that we've identified which processes take up the most time and effort when launching a business on Amazon, let's take a look at how exactly DataDive can help automate, speed up, or simply make them more user-friendly. Of course, it doesn't help with everything, but it really makes a big difference with the key issues. Point number 1, automatic keyword list generation. This is probably DataDive's most powerful tool. If before, this whole process would take an entire evening with Helium and give you a headache, now it literally takes just a couple of clicks. DataDive automatically pulls in the search queries our competitors are using, filters them, and shows their frequency and relevance. And most importantly, it has a built-in competitor brand filtering feature. Yes, it's not perfect yet. Sometimes brand names still slip through, so a final manual check is still necessary. But compared to how this is done manually in other services, the difference is just out of this world. Point number 2. DataDive has a unique feature, a tool for creating a profile of our future customer, as well as automatically generating a list of improvements for the product. Honestly, this is just a real find, because first of all, the service analyzes competitors' reviews, identifies customer pain points and desires, and then, based on that, suggests a list of functional and design improvements. And it does this literally in just a couple of minutes. Of course, this still isn't a final action guide. All these ideas are just hypotheses. They definitely need to be double-checked and validated with real consumers. But as a starting point, DataDive does an excellent job. Point number 3, writing copy for the listing. And here, too, DataDive is really helpful. All you need to do is specify the key advantages of your product, and the service will help structure everything into bullet points, descriptions, and titles. All of this takes into account search queries and Amazon's rules. That alone already saves a ton of time. But that's not where the features end. DataDive also analyzes the strength of your listing in the eyes of Amazon's search system. In other words, it shows you the potential traffic you can get for all key search queries, provided, of course, that you distribute them properly throughout the text. It also compares your listing to your competitors. And you can immediately see whether your product description is stronger or weaker in terms of indexing, reach, and potential traffic. It's a really cool feature. Point number 4 is creating a technical brief for developing high-converting illustrations. The service has a tool that gathers all competitor images on a single page. You don't have to open each listing, click through the pictures, and analyze everything manually. DataDive automatically pulls in the images of the competitors you specify and shows you which messages and visual techniques they use. This saves a huge amount of time. You immediately see what each competitor is focusing on, which pain points they're addressing, where things are lacking, and where things are, on the contrary, really well done. That means you can create a brief for your own illustrations not blindly, but taking into account what the actual, let's say, battlefield looks like. Point number 5. This is a product calculator for selling on Amazon. And honestly, I have to say that DataDive is probably the most detailed and well thought out calculator I've ever seen in all our years working on Amazon. And just to remind you, we've been working since 2016. I regularly check out all the new services out there, and when it comes to this feature, DataDive is still unmatched. Yes, it's not super simple. You have to enter a lot of numbers, product cost, packaging, logistics, fees, and so on. But as a result, you get the most complete picture possible. You see the exact profit margin, and you can calculate profitability under different shipping conditions at different volumes with different packaging. Basically, it's not just a calculator, it's a powerful decision-making tool. It helps you decide what to launch and what not to even consider. And most importantly, it does this quickly and accurately. This is already a level where everything is calculated down to the cent. And that's not all of DataDive's advantages. I've only listed the most important ones, but I want to make one important clarification. Despite all the benefits we've just discussed, to be honest, DataDive still can't fully replace services like Helium or Jungle Scout yet. But everything we talked about in the previous points, niche evaluation, keyword generation, copywriting, creating illustrations, calculating economics, identifying the target audience, all of that is done much faster with DataDive. We really save tons of time. And what's especially nice is that DataDive costs significantly less than Helium. The basic package starts at just $40, and there's a coupon for a 20% discount on this service in the description of this video. So you can get access to literally all the features for a very small amount of money. Be sure to take advantage of this discount. It really makes getting started with the system even more affordable. And finally, I want to mention one more thing that's important to understand. DataDive has one serious drawback. The system is complicated. The interface, well, let's just say it's not the most user-friendly. Figuring out where to click, how everything works, and what's connected to what, it personally took me about a week to get the hang of it. No joke. See you soon.